Oh no. Teacher. No.
Um, let's all see if we can share our screen as well. If everyone needs to share their screens, let's see if we can share our screen. No. See if you can do that or not. Let's see if we can share our screen.
Yes, Juveria, I enabled it.
No.
Yeah, it's okay.
See if you can do that. Perfect, thank you. Yes. Okay, Pakpalo can share your screen. Pakpalo, you can share your screen. You're on. I do see you. Yes. Yep. Yasin and Idris, your cameras are off. Can we turn on our cameras and see how our quality is? All right, perfect. Thank you, gentlemen.
I'm a pilot. I mean, that's something.
Yes, we are closed. Oh, whose Chromebook is getting charged right now? I am so saddened by the state of chargedness here. All right, let's do one last sound check real quickly. We'll start off again with the Rifat.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Okay, Adil.
Hello.
Yes. Raghib.
Hello.
Yes. Yasin.
Hello.
Moi.
Hello.
Idris. Idris, I cannot hear you. Idris. Can you say that again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. All right, Malak. Oh, you're not. Fadal. Alaikum assalam. Assalamualaikum. Fadal, I cannot hear you. Okay.
Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Mana.
Hello.
Yes. Baharjan.
Hello.
Yeah. Moza?
Hello.
Yes. Salma?
Hello.
We have lots of room right here. Amira? I cannot hear you. I only heard you in live, but I can hear your headphones though. Say it again.
Hello.
Hi. Yes. All right. What I would recommend, Idris John, if you scoot a little bit over here. Fadl, are you comfortable in that corner? Okay. All right, Idris. Are you comfortable, Idris? Okay. Okay. So I'm looking at the schedule right now, and I see I don't know if you guys can hear me live here or through your headphones as well. I don't know. Both. Okay. Is it bad? Both way. It's good, right? So the first session is the black, white, brown. Hold on. Let me take out the youth conference schedule. Like, oh no. I just lost all my tabs. I'm on Safari. Malak, are you in? Okay. How are you guys sharing that? Okay. All right. So for everyone, we are after Pak Paulo's keynote at around 10:25. We are going to start with our first workshop is Black, White, and Brown, Healing and Unifying Our Humanity by Defeating Racism and Bigotry Within Ourselves. And the moderators for that one are Ragib and Idris. And the speakers are fluid. Salma, Huda, Bahar, Refat, and Ghufran. Oh, I haven't seen Ghufran yet. 15. There's 16 of you guys. Who am? Oh, Fran and Mohammed are missing. And Nima, yes. So, okay. All right. So that's the first one. Then we're going to take about 5 to 10 minute break, inshallah. The next one is 5G connection, God, goodness, greatness, generosity, and growth. And for that, the moderators are Mohammed and Muad, and Ragib, Rafat, Yassin, and Adil are the main speakers. And we have 30 seconds until we begin. Inshallah. After that, in the Game of Thrones, Who Rules Your Heart? Malak and Fadl are the moderators. Malak and Idris and Fadl are also the speakers as well. Then Gen Z, proclaiming the youth, the truth and claiming the positive narrative. Nimatullah and Ghufran are the moderators. Amira, Salma, Malak, Bahar, Huda, and Mona are the speakers. And the last one, the challenges and opportunities of American Muslim youth. Mona, Huda, and Adil are the speakers and the moderators, inshallah. All right, so let's I guess we can begin. Okay, are we all ready? Oh. Yes. Okay, we are going live, everyone.
All right, everyone. 3, 2, 1, go. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. My name is Javeria Sayed, and I am very excited to announce the very first youth conference held by Oregon Islamic Academy's youth of junior and senior class of 2022. Today, we are going to highlight many issues that the youth face on daily basis, and not only in their classrooms, but also outside of their classrooms as well. Our keynote speaker for today is Pak Paulo, a former teacher from Oregon Islamic Academy who taught these students creative writing. Pak Paulo, welcome, and thank you for being our speaker for today.
Good morning. Salamat pagi. May peace be your morn. Dear parents and teachers, and of course, dear students. Assalamu alaikum, dear daughters and sons of our Ummah's ambitious and hard working parents and grandparents. Wa rahmatu Allah, dear students of Muslim educational trusts, kind and creative teachers. Tentu kasihan ilah, surely God loves you, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Clearly Allah loves you, and let me tell you why I say so. Let me say why I really want to believe this is so. Though you've said it all out already in your conference agenda. Number one, who and what rules your hearts? Why your positive narrative on our achy, our precious little planet will claim our public square, inshallah. And how will all this heal and all this unify our world stuck in a stupid rut of bigotry among our black and brown and white families and our communities, our countries? Sure, it's all that, and all that is so much more clarity and commitment, so much more love and joy than our generations, your elders' generations, have dared say before you. Here's how I know. When and where I grew up, our family was shoved out to sea by our neighbors, by my classmates, by the chaos in the aftermath of the West's awful warring half a world away from where their families lived, half a world away from Tigard, Oregon. In your time of growing up, the arrogant habits of some very bigoted American institutions likewise created the chronic chaos that generated mass migrations of frightened families half a world away and resettled them right here, right now among us in our blessed northwest corner of this grand continent. When I grew up, when I went to school here in America, the extremes of our political and spiritual leadership when I was a kid made peace simply impossible amongst America's races and our cultures, our genders and our generations. More rejection and more betrayal and more angry reaction to each other's rejection, to each other's betrayal, to each other's brutality made American dreaming just plain undoable in my generation. In your time of growing up, our political and spiritual and our cultural extremes are likewise your daily norms. These things are on your Chromebooks. They're all over our newspapers every time we open them, every time we look. So there you have it. How much our generations are so much the same, but I believe, I really, really must believe from being around you all as students, dear daughters and sons, of our ridiculously optimistic parents and grandparents, dear students of our endlessly generous teachers and school staffers, I believe that in these next 4 hours, inshallah, you will carefully and you will kindly set out for us why you also believe with all your hearts and your heads and your bones that you've got this. You've got us for all the reasons, alhamdulillah, that you do. You've got this. You've got us. Terima kasih. Tentu kasihan ilah. Surely Allah loves you. Warahmatullah. Teacher Julia, back to you.
Thank you, Pak Paulo, for these beautiful words. Before we begin, as part of all Islamic conferences, we begin with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am going to invite our resident Hafiz, Raghib Haq, from 12th grade, class of 2022, to recite with us, open us up with Surah Al-Fatiha. Raghib.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Thank you, Raghib. As I said earlier today, that today's conference is about a frank discussion amongst the youth on the challenges that they face and how they are combating it, how they are overcoming it, and what are the solutions that they are looking to propose and that they are already working on. Many of these speakers today that you're going to meet are already in these, are working hard on these issues within the school and with other organizations around Oregon as well. The whole purpose of the conference today is to create empowerment and to allow our students to feel that they are able to think for their future and they are able to do the best so that they can become the leaders tomorrow, inshallah. The different topics that might look they are different, however, are all connected with their daily lives, what they face through their in their spiritual lives, in their educational journeys, in their social lives. when they socialize outside of school, when they are studying, when they're applying for jobs, internships, colleges. These are all the struggles that our youth, not just at Oregon Islamic Academy and in Oregon only, but all throughout the globe are going through. And some of it is going to resonate with all of us. Some of it will resonate with some of us. However, as an adult in this room, I've been there, but the times have changed. And I am learning from all of these youth as well. Our first topic or our first workshop today is lost my screen. The first workshop today is labeled Black, White, and Brown, Healing and Unifying Our Humanity by Defeating Racism and Bigotry Within Ourselves. Our moderators for this are Raghib Haq and Idris Ibrahim. Both are seniors this year and graduating from Oregon Islamic Academy. Speakers today are Salma Sheikh, a junior at Oregon Islamic Academy, Huda Bashro, a senior at Oregon Islamic Academy, Bahar Madani, also a senior at Oregon Islamic Academy, Rifat Rizvik, a junior, and Ghufran Tahir, a junior as well. Without further ado, Raghib and Idris.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Idris Ibrahim, and as Teacher Juria previously stated, I am a senior here at Muslim Educational Trust. So our topic is going to be Black, White, and Brown, Healing and Unifying Our Humanity by Defeating Racism and Bigotry Within Ourselves. The group members are Salma Sheikh, Huda Bashro, Bahar Madani, Rifat, and Ghufran. And just a brief abstract is that humanity experiences racial divisions and hatred along racial lines at both individual and systemic levels. And this hatred can manifest in actions carried out by sick individuals. So dealing with the hatred rampant in our communities will be the first step involved in a process of healing wounds within hurt communities. And the next step will be to try and create forums for understanding, the final step being advocating for policies and actions that safeguard against hatred and division.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rifat, and so I'll be talking about racism in Islam. So in his last khutbah, the Prophet Muhammad said that every Muslim is the brother of another Muslim. All mankind is from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, nor a non-Arab has any superiority over an Arab. Also, a white has no superiority over a black, nor a black has any superiority over a white, except by piety and good action. Learn that every Muslim is a brother to every Muslim, and that Muslims constitute one brotherhood. Nothing shall be legitimate to a Muslim that belongs to a fellow Muslim, unless it was given freely and willingly. Do not therefore do injustice to yourselves. Remember, one day you will meet Allah and answer your deeds. So beware, do not stray from the path of righteousness after I am gone. So here we see how the Prophet Muhammad is talking about how we all are equal and how we all respect each other and how we are all the same. So I'll let my group members talk more about that. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Huda. As previously mentioned, I am a senior here. And I just kind of wanted to talk about, with my classmates, the racism and the Islamophobia that we've experienced, or especially just living here in the United States. And together we appreciate the UN-like classroom that we have, sitting in like a roundtable setting and being able to share our experiences with you all today. So before we get into a little bit about some of the experiences we've had, I'd like to talk about the things that we've done to kind of break down these barriers. uh, being an African American Muslim has made us subject to racism and Islamophobia, and we get many like looks and harsh words, and that's always been the norm. But we've been able to accept that, and that it follows us wherever we go. But it's for most of us, it's never sat right with us. So we joined YAC at our school, which is the Youth Ambassadors Club. And together we've been able to strive to break down these barriers as a team. We've become effective leaders and ambassadors of our school, race, religion, and identity. And as a member, we present the basics of our faith through workshops and presentations to schools and governmental organizations and religious institutions. We represent YAC and Muslims at workshops gearing towards overcoming hate. Besides overcoming bigotry, we were able to sit down and talk to the people we present to, and have them answer any question or ask us any questions that they have. And it's always been really good to kind of clear up any confusion or break down the stereotypes. And we do that all throughout high school, and we've met wonderful people through that. But at the same time, that doesn't stop us from experiencing any type of hatred from other groups of people. And that's why we're here today to kind of talk about uh, the hatred that we faced as Muslims, as minorities, of people of color. And we're kind of sitting here together today to talk to you about what impact that's had on us and the individual experiences we've had that has led us to this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Hada. Our next speaker is going to be Salma Sheikh.
Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Salma Sheikh. I'm a student here and one of the juniors, as previously introduced. And just to add on to what Hoda said, to talk about some of our experiences as African American Muslim women, Muslim, and just as people of color, having both those identities, and just whether it's something that's major or minor, just those incidents that really make you feel ostracized. I know that for me, it's not only about those incidents where it's like maybe mistreatment by police enforcement or just mistreatment from your healthcare system. I know that that's certain things that I've definitely experienced, but also those just day-to-day interactions and spaces that, like, for me, like one of the spaces I interact with often is like the library, or just whenever you're in public, just feeling like, you are just really just way too different, or you have these identities that make you separate from everyone else. I know that growing up, especially in public school, I was one of the only Muslims, one of the only Black students, and the only hijab in my classroom. And I know that maybe made me always feel like there was no one that really understood what it was like to be growing up here in Portland, Oregon, and having those identities. And it just made me feel like I couldn't really achieve all that I had, because I didn't really see anyone around me with identities of mine being successful and really going out and sharing their voice. So I just know that it's the importance of really, one thing is creating that representation. So really making sure, especially with our youth, that we show them people that look like them, people with identities such as theirs, really being successful, making change in the world, and just really showing that to them young. So I know that if I was younger and I could see people like a Black Muslim woman really in whatever field really be sharing her voice, or just making an impact, or just doing anything, and whether it be in the media or books or anything that I interacted with, I just know I would have felt um, I would have felt more seen and less afraid to be who I was. So if any, that's one thing, and I know that another yeah. So that's just one experience. I know that that's something that should really impacted me growing up. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Selma, for speaking. We're gonna have Bahar Medani speak next.
Um, personally, personally, I feel like as Muslims, especially as someone who wears the hijab, it can cause us to fa- also face a bit of racism because we look different from the majority in society. And um, sometimes I've noticed that when you have immigrant parents, they they are, even though they experience it, they kind of think that they deserve to experience it, and they think that it's completely okay to be treated differently or to be spoken in a way that is rude compared to someone else. But as someone who's learning about it and is growing up here, and MET has taught us that it's not okay, and we need to really stand against it. And one example was that um, when I was traveling back to Iran, we had to, and of course wear the hijab and wear long tunics. So when we were in the airports, they would pat us down and check our hijabs, and they would even check my brother's stroller, which almost made us miss our flight because of the amount of security that we had to go through. And I feel like um, we also, as like the future generation, we need to also teach our parents that this is not okay. And if you feel uncomfortable about the amount of um, hatred you're receiving or the amount of questioning, that you should speak up about it, even if you look different, or um, even if you have a lack of language, or if you look differently.
Thank you for that, Bahar. We're gonna have Ofran speak. So thank you all for speaking. We're gonna be opening it up to the audience, um, sort of Q&A podcast style, I believe. So if you have any questions, you can go down to the question and answer button at the bottom and put it in there.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Huda, Bahar, Salma, Ghufran, Idris, and Raghib for sharing, Rifat for sharing your experiences. But I feel like there's more that you guys have to actually impart to other people, to everyone, our audience, and even to myself as well. And I know many of you guys, have talked in school about how different people treat you differently, or how people have treated you in past differently. Is there a particular experience? Bahar, I know Bahar shared her story about traveling to Iran and almost missing her flight because she was her security was taking longer. Anybody else had experienced something such as that, or if you had a positive experience because of how you look? So growing up, when I was growing up in a school where my twin sister and I were the only hijabis, and also the only brown people. My family, actually, it was myself, my cousin, and my brother were the only brown people in the school. It was very difficult because sometimes you would bring in your lunch, and people wouldn't want to sit next to you because they did not like the smell of your lunch. I know you guys are actually very lucky and blessed to go to Oregon Islamic Academy, where you have a diverse group of peers around you. But that was one of the most hurtful things that I would ever experience, when your friends would say, "Oh, your lunch smells. It, what is the scent? What is the smell coming?" And that was actually very hurtful because the food was great and they were missing out. It was that was one of the things that actually stuck out a lot with me.
Adil has asked a question: how can we as a nation heal from the divisiveness and hatred of the last 6 or so years and join the civil rights movement today?
Well, I think first off, being the generation that has the ability to kind of use social media as a platform for us all to kind of use our voices, I think we have a very good chance of we're all like using our voices or using our socials or um, standing in solidarity with each other. A lot of times, just speaking out does a lot of work in itself, like spreading awareness. We all say that. Um, Being an advocate means educating yourself, it means educating others. And it doesn't mean you necessarily have to go and like fight something or literally do something. It's more of just um, how you speak about it, how you what would you do in if the situation presented itself to you. And the civil rights movement is always around, like it's Black History Month. We are remembering Black history and all the important people that have gotten us to this point. So a lot of times just learning or taking the time to learn what this means, or um, kind of teach others, or instead of just staying silent, that can make a big difference because so many people are active on social media. And so now, if you just kind of bring up the issues that we have at hand and bring awareness to it, that'll bring a lot more people to the table.
Yeah, to add
We
on.
have two questions. So one of the questions is, how do you intend to harnessing this event and its implications in ways that contribute to young Muslims worldwide? This is a very good question, and we will actually answer this question at towards the end of the conference. Thank you for this question. Next question is from Brother Tariq, saying, Jazakumullah khair for the great effort. My question is, as a young Muslim growing up in the West, how is your core belief when it comes to your religion? Meaning, do you fit Islam in your lifestyle, or do you fit your lifestyle in Islam?
I love this question. I'm sure we can all speak about it because as a class, we talk about stuff like this all the time. It's something we're very passionate about because the country that we live in makes it very hard for us to be practicing Muslims. And so, prioritizing your iman, your faith, is one thing that we constantly need reminders of. And it's more of, for me at least, it's more of revolving my life around my faith, my daily prayers. My day revolves around my daily prayers, and just taking that initial step makes a huge difference in your life. And I'm sure anyone else can attest to that. So I think a lot of us in this room are lucky enough to attend an Islamic school where it helps us keep our core beliefs intact, because it's a lot harder in the real world. So growing up and juggling so many things, especially in such a weird time, we've been able to do that and do it together, and that's helped a lot.
Would you like to?
So for the question Brother Tariq asked, how we implement Islam in our daily life. Uh, Islam is a religion of peace, and it is a religion that needs no change. It is us that need change. We need to be able to implement that into our daily life. Uh, the religion itself has never changed. It's a perfect religion. We must be able to change in today's day to be able to implement the religion. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I know for me personally, when I was younger, unfortunate to say, I know that I felt like I had to fit my life, like Islam, into my lifestyle. It'd be this thing that I had to sometimes felt a little bit like a burden or something that I had to make a part of. Like I had to obviously like I have to do things like pray and do all these things, but it just felt really difficult. Like I know one of the experience that always kind of sticks out to me when I think of how it was really hard to be presenting my faith was I one of my more workspaces where I often work is a library because it's really quiet. I have a lot of siblings, and I know that I would always have to pray there. And what would be difficult is I always felt really nervous. My heart would just I'd just be really afraid sometimes to be in this space and to do this without thinking, what if something happened? Like what if someone just like walked in and wanted to say something to me, or just what if there was just all those what ifs were running through my head, and it'd be hard to like really be proud of my identity and be proud of being Muslim when that was the case. And a lot has changed since then. I know that although then I felt like Islam was this kind of hard part that I had to incorporate within my lifestyle, but now I feel like Islam is how I'm trying. Like it's just how It's my life. It's I'm trying to live like this is how I'm trying to live. Like not like it's a burden, but something that is I'm very proud of. I'm proud to walk out with the hijab every day. I'm proud to pray and um, present my faith and not be afraid to be who I am. And yeah, I just know that like with all that I learn, I know that like I'm a person who really is into um, personal development and books like that. I know that a lot of the points I even realize sometimes Islam already has preached for this things like stillness and being really mindful and just whatever it may be, just really trying to appreciate merge and just live more holistically in that aspect instead of it being this thing when I was younger and I didn't see anyone, like I didn't go to an Islamic school. I didn't see people like me. So I'm really appreciative of that and just, yeah, that's how I am now. Alhamdulillah.
The next question we have is from Sister Hadil Sarar. Salam, can you talk a little bit more about how is your experience in balancing between different identities, American identity and family background identity, your relationship with family and origin culture versus your connection to American friends and community? Thank you.
I think an important thing is to be respectful towards all of them and not to see one superior towards another one. And I feel like one thing that really helps me is just studying both sides of it. There's your Islamic identity, your American identity, and the country you come from. Like, I feel like my tip is just to be okay to question and be okay to question. Like, if you have a question, don't just like cover it, but go after it and see, because that question can lead to a better understanding. And the more you understand yourself and your origins, the more comfortable you become with it.
Yeah, piggybacking off of what she said, I definitely think it is a struggle. You know, a lot of our life right now is trying to figure out a balance between the two. And it's definitely hard, but it's each individual is different. I definitely have to say. But once you kind of realize it's not a competition between the two, you don't have to be one or the other. And you also don't have to um, combine the two together. Like my family is my family, and my friends and my school is completely separate. Um, and for example, my American identity and my family background identity, like those kind of things, we have these discussions all the time. And your family background is who you are, and you can't change that. But being American to me is just kind of like, okay, it's I'm American, but at the same time, my family, it comes first. So once you realize it's not necessarily a competition where you have to choose between the other, you're both, and it's fine. You learn to be able to balance it, and once you do, especially living here, it makes things a lot.
Yeah, well, this I know that it can feel when you have all these different identities, it can be really confusing, especially when you're younger. So trying to understand that you just don't have to, like Huda said, don't have to be one, and you don't have to, you know, in all these spaces, just being who you are is really important. As cliche as it sounds, you don't have to give up one part of your identity to really be another part of it. And like you don't have to, like if you're Muslim in other spaces, you don't have to like Muslim in spaces where there aren't a lot of Muslims, or you don't have to try to hide that away, or being whatever your ethnic origin, being Somali for me, it isn't something that has to clash. They don't have to be at war all the time, especially it feels like that time, like it feels at times like that within yourself. But presenting who you are, and just like one thing I know that it was difficult for me to sometimes when there was conflict between my culture and religion, just realizing that one is divine, and just trying to really like going back to the source. I know that the core of it talked a lot about educating yourself, and educating yourself, especially with the core part of your identity, like religion, like really learning about the religion instead of just accepting what everyone else around you tells you. If your family tells you like this is a belief, and you're like that doesn't seem right, that seems pretty unjust, or it doesn't seem like it is like it doesn't seem to fit within all that we learn about our religion. So really just learning is really important. So yeah, just I know that for me it was hard to feel like, okay, how are you going to be talking about like this ayah that talks about equality, racial equality, and then be talking about the color of someone's skin tone? even within communities and spaces like this. So really learning and not trying to just accept what everyone else tells you.
Also, something that's very helpful and like comforting is to surround yourself with people that kind of have the same that same like struggle, I guess you can say, because realistically speaking, it is really difficult to balance between the two lifestyles. And like if you're from another country, for example, like I'm from Egypt, I go back to Egypt and people are not super accepting, like they don't relate to me as much, and then I come here and like a typical American, I don't relate to them. So I think like if you find a really good group of friends or like sense of community um, with people who deal with the same struggles, it's a lot easier to balance everything out. And yeah. Okay, so somebody asked, Maya asked, how can a young Muslim deal with harmful acts or unfair treatment, specifically young Muslimas who wear the hijab and get discriminated because of it? So this is a really good question. I was actually talking to a friend of mine a couple days ago, and she um, got verbally harassed at the library. A guy was yelling at her, telling her to like pretty much get out. She was wearing hijab and he was speaking to her very rudely, cussing her out. And she's a very calm person and she like does not get angry. So she dealt with this situation very peacefully and she like I think the way to deal with unfair treatment is obviously stand up for yourself. Don't let people get away with it. Always stand up for yourself and try to get help. Like if it's in a public area, ask other people for help. Um, and also don't reciprocate the energy back. Like oftentimes if you get angry back or like at someone who is like already triggered within the situation, then um, that's kind of like what they want. They want you to react if they're saying something hurtful. So if you stay calm and you just try to like deal with the situation peacefully, it actually bothers them more, is what I've noticed. And then later on, like they can't blame you for anything. Like they're in the wrong and you didn't fight back. So I don't know. Does anyone else want to add or like speak about something that they dealt with?
Yeah, I also really have to agree. Kind of fighting back or arguing back in that situation only adds fuel to the fire, and it's very hard sometimes to just let yourself be verbally attacked like that, because how do you defend yourself in that situation when in reality you as a Muslim hijabi woman are a representative of your faith, and that's one of the biggest struggles that we have as Muslim women. Like we have a hijab on, everybody around us knows we're Muslim. So the person who's verbally attacking you may not know much about Islam, and you could be the person who introduces Islam or shows them what kind of people we are. And so kind of handling that in a mature way would probably be the best and the safest option for both you um, and anyone else in the near like vicinity. So a lot of times we kind of freeze in that kind of situation. We don't know what to say. But sometimes just kind of calmly, like either walking away or speaking back calmly, or just kind of showing that this is not what a Muslim would do at all. This is not how a Muslim would act. Can be the thing that switches in their head. That's like, oh, maybe they're not like what I've been told they are. Maybe they're not as aggressive or horrible people. Maybe they're just like they're normal. Maybe if I just sat down and learned about Islam or what kind of people they are, you could be the one that like brings them into the fold of Islam, or you could be the first Muslim they meet and they fall in love with their religion or start respecting Muslim women and Muslim men in general. So always keeping that in mind can kind of help you deal with a situation like that.
And also to add to that, you don't always have to. I know it can seem easy in a situation like this, or at least or at least like when you're thinking about it in those situations, you really want to just can be confrontation or just like speak your mind or think that like, okay, if someone's saying this to me, I need to give them all the reasons why this is not how my religion is, or this is not how this is not what I am like my belief is like. But also, it's important to sometimes, like Pada said, like Malik said, to just sometimes walk away and or to get someone around you to speak up and to make sure that you are safe in those moments or that you are doing what you need to be not in a situation like this, because sometimes I know it can feel like, okay, if someone has this negative view, it's my job to kind of like to fight back in that way. But there are other ways, instead of someone who's coming at you very abrasively, very like yelling at you or being very angry to sometimes, there are other ways you can put your efforts. I know even around you sometimes having conversations with people who disagree with you and think that, oh no, that this is how Islam is, or having like really wanting to argue with you, that there are other ways you can, put your anger towards or put your efforts towards instead of just trying to fight back. There are other ways to fight back, is what I'm essentially saying. So you don't, in those situations, it can be really scary and it can be easy to freeze. So yeah, making sure that if there's like an adult around, if there's someone that you can go to try to diffuse the situation and to make sure that everything that you are safe essentially.
We have more questions here. Another question comes from Abdi Shakur Ahmed. What are some changes that you had to do to make Islam priority in your life? Idris, you should start.
So to answer that question, I think that it's important from the get-go to kind of incorporate Islam into your sort of everyday basic values, because then it's kind of easier to not have to change your actions in your daily life to sort of fit in with Islam. So I think that it's important from the get-go to just have those Islamic values installed and sort of use those values as outlines and guidelines for how you live your life, because Islam is a religion that basically is kind of a way of life. So in that sense, it's a relatively easy religion to follow because everything's kind of written for you. And there's like a whole bunch of different aspects, from what to do when you wake up, how to eat, how to drink, sleep, all of those things are mentioned in Islam. So just by simply incorporating that in your daily actions, I think that's one way to start. And it won't really make it so that you'd have to change your whole life to fit Islam.
Okay, let's say you've been a Muslim your whole life. Your parents are Muslim, your family is Muslim. You pray your 5 daily prayers, but you still don't feel close with Allah, or something in your heart just doesn't feel right. A lot of us experience that at one point in our life, and there's always a turning point that like kind of switches us over and makes us start actively changing different aspects in our life to fix our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for me, at least, what I would recommend and that's worked for me is like finding a podcast to listen to. I listen to so many podcasts. I listen to Amr Sayman, Taqiyya Haq, the Quran Institute, the Digital Sisterhood. And if you also like just listening to Quran, if you can't read Quran fluently, just have it playing always. Before you start praying your fard prayers, um, sit down and reflect before you start to pray, because that'll get you into the right mindset. You need to have all your distractions put away before you start praying. And a lot of times, with everything going on, we just go, we pray, and we go back to doing our work. But sometimes we just need to sit down, and I like to think about what I'm grateful for, or something that Allah has blessed me with, or kind of just finding something to either thank Allah or get my mind ready to submit to Him. And then afterwards, I recently read that um, whoever recites Ayatul Kursi after every Fard Salah, the only thing that's preventing him from paradise is death. The only thing that'll prevent you from getting into Jannah is your death. So, kind of finding these things that'll motivate you to start implementing them into your daily lives. Like, I like to look for hadith or du'as that either resonate with me or will help me to motivate myself into taking action. Like that hadith, for example, Ayatul Kursi is not that long. You can read that after every Fard Salah and you will start feeling better. Um, and sitting down and reading Quran, a page of Quran at least every day or 2 pages. Once you start making that action and once you have the mindset in your head, you'll start noticing a change in your life. You'll start feeling happier. Things will start going better for you. And a lot of your struggles will begin to ease.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Huda. To add on to that, for me, I know that one thing. Oh, okay. I know for me personally, one thing like Huda said is surrounding yourself with those reminders. And I don't know if anyone else has experienced this on social media, but let's say you see a post and you just kind of scroll, or you just like sometimes ignore some of those reminders and trying to like not do that. One thing I know is really surrounding yourself with people that remind you of Allah and that keep you on your deen. And I know another thing is like gratitude is such a huge thing. When you're really grateful, you realize that all of this, is all just a test. I know that I was outside recently. It was a sunny day, and just realizing how beautiful everything around is, like how nature, how beautiful it is. But then thinking about how there's so much more eternal beauty in Jannah. Like there's so much more that Allah has promised us if we just kind of stick to our deen and just there's so much to be grateful for, everything that we have. And again, with surrounding yourself with people who really remind you of Islam and really remind you to keep striving in the name of Allah. I know one thing that grandma was still here, she would always be really strict with her prayers, even to a point she couldn't get out of bed to make wudu. But she'd be like that she heard that hadith about like where you use the thing where it's like you get the dirt and you can make wudu, something along those lines. And she would think that, okay, since I can't do that, I'll just like put my hand on the wall and try to make something, like try to find a solution. So I'm still doing those things. And just seeing those acts of worship, seeing this continual, like, even those situations where you can't even, oh, someone said they can't hear when I'm anything. All right. But just really always being in that place where, life is short, and just kind of keeping this in mind. And there's just such a major thing to see that um, being on your prayers and just always reminding yourself of Allah is just so important. And always trying to be mindful, and always doing that, because that's the most important thing. And if you get rid of all those little things in life that don't really, like, if you kind of get super bogged down like the little details and the things that don't really matter as much, that you kind of forget what's most important in life. And always trying to keep those reminders, and just be grateful, because I know that I'm really grateful, like, and being really patient. One thing I was um just being really grateful. I know that one thing, like when I lost my grandma, if you're really understanding of all that Allah has blessed us with, and trying to be patient in those moments, it's can really help you closer to Allah. And lastly, just I know sometimes it can feel like you're a lost cause. Like I've said so much, yes, that I've like um already made so much mistakes, so how can I even be a good Muslim, but then not really giving up on yourself and always trying to repent? Yeah.
And a very big decision that I've recently been thinking about and meditating on has been whether or not I want to stay here and stay for college or leave. And I've recently decided that I think it would be a better idea for me to stay with my family because they definitely always provide the best support when it comes to my religion, which has been a pretty big change since I've always had the mindset that I'm going to leave. But I decided that it's better to put my spirituality first.
Thank you very much to all the speakers on this panel. If there are any closing remarks, if there are any closing remarks from any speaker or comments, this is the time. I don't think there is, so we will now finish the panel discussion.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for participating in our first panel discussion. We will be taking a 10-minute break. We will be back at 11:05 with our next group discussion. Please do not go anywhere. We'll be back soon. Assalamualaikum, everyone. Welcome back. We'll continue our conference with the next workshop. It is 5G connection, God, goodness, greatness, generosity, and growth. The moderators for this are Muhammad and Idris Ibrahim. Muhammad is a junior at Oregon Islamic Academy, and Idris, you've been introduced to a senior. The speakers for this are Raghib Haq, Rifat Rizvik, Yasin Usman, Adil Muhammad, and Muaz Shabdaran. Muhammad and Idris.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I will be introducing the 5G topic. By building our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fortifying our faith, we can imbue ourselves with values that allow us to impact our communities in positive and fruitful manners. That greater connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bear out in actions that increase our generosity, both with our time and our money. As a result, both the community and its individuals can grow from a spiritual faith perspective. Our first speaker will be Rifat, and he will be talking about God and how important it is to have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our lives and to incorporate the remembrance of Allah in every situation that we face.
So, assalamu alaikum. My name is Rifat, and I'll be prefacing about God. So, every single one of us has wondered at one point, like in our lives, why we are here and what is our purpose for existing. So, in our religion, the perspective of our religion, which is Islam, the reason is we exist is to worship God. So, the God that we believe in is the same Abrahamic God that Jews and Christians believe in. He's a single entity, and he's unlike anything that a human brain can imagine. He doesn't have limbs, organs, or any body or any defined form. Yet he can see and hear, but his seeing and hearing is different. It is unlike how humans see and hear. We have to depend on our eyes and ears in order to see and hear. But God doesn't need such parts. God is merciful and kind. He creates good and he also creates evil, but for a purpose. He rewards those who do good deeds and believe in him. He's the creator of the universe and everything that is contained in it. He exists and he's always living, but time and space do not apply to him because he's the creator of time and space. This is who we worship, the one who created us and continues to sustain us by giving us life and all the many blessings of life. From the simple and less obvious ones of such as food, water, and good health, to greater things such as money and a home and a family. This is why we should be thankful to our creator and worship him, because this is the absolute minimum that we can do to show our gratitude. Thank you.
Salam, my name is Yasin, and I'll be talking about goodness. In the Islamic civilization, goodness is the purpose of all existence. Humans exist in order to do good, right, nice, beneficial, and useful things, and to struggle with bad, wrong, ugly, and harmful things. According to Islam, it's not enough to be good. You also have to lead goodness by creating values. Being a true believer in God, a good son, a good parent, a good neighbor, a good friend, in short, a good person, is the individual's ultimate duty that Islam asks from each one of us. Thus, goodness is a requirement of being Muslim. The modern world has its own understanding of goodness, but it's obvious how inadequate this understanding is and where it's got us in this world. What do you think is the problem with modern world's understanding of goodness? The modern world perceives goodness only as goodness to oneself. Benefit and self-interest have replaced being good. Individualism and egoism have turned into pragmatism and utilitarianism. The goodness in modern times has lost its aspect of love and metaphysics. Love, respect, mercy, and goodness have been replaced by social responsibility projects designed as advertising. A religion of peace and goodness, Islam unfortunately is associated with terror and violence in the West, which in turn increases Islamophobia. What should both sides do in order to prevent this perception? The Holy Quran leads us the way in showing us how to turn even the fiercest hostility into candid friendship. The solution is to banish all evil with the good. The 34th verse of Surah Fussilat says, "The good is not equal to the bad. Avoid the evil in a good way. And when you look, it's like that enemy of yours has become a candid friend." In the name of freedom of speech in the West, we have seen increasing attacks on Islam and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can we say that an act that disrespects and insults anything that's regarded as sacred by religion is freedom of speech? No matter who or what the target is, any kind of insult, belittlement, disdain, mockery, or swearing is bad. No one can say that these things are good deeds. Therefore, regarding an insult, belittlement, or disdain towards sacred values of freedom of speech means that the concepts of good and bad have been reversed. This doesn't mean that there can't be any criticism. In fact, the sun of truth rises from the open and clear clash of opinions. Hereby, no matter what the subject is, I wish for all people in this world to find what's right by not insulting each other, but by expressing and discussing their opinions in a respectful manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Yassine, for speaking about goodness. Now, our third speaker will be talking about greatness. Raqib.
Assalamu alaikum. While I was told to talk about greatness, I would like to change the focus of the discussion. And greatness, which is a vague enough word in writing and in reading, does not belong in the domain of human attainability. It would be really presumptuous to assume that a human can become great. So instead, I would like to shift our discussion to an Arabic term, which translates a lot more comfortably and without the arrogance and pomp that greatness evokes. The word ihsan. In a rough translation, ihsan means spiritual excellence. For the Muslim, spiritual excellence is the highest level of righteousness and faith. It is a goal that all of us should work towards. The first point I would like to bring forward is that ihsan is attainable with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it cannot be reached through passivism. It requires constant effort. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 69, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. As for those who strive hard in us, we will surely guide them to our paths. And verily, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with the muhsinun. How should we understand ihsan? As with many aspects of the religion, ihsan first starts with the category of al-ihsan fi ibadatil khaliq, excellence in the worship of the Creator. This first aspect is paramount in our efforts to strengthen our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Practically speaking, this means that we should be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we perform our actions, starting with prayer. Take the response of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Jibreel alayhi salam asked him about ihsan. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Excellence is to worship Allah as if you see Him. For although you do not see Him, yet He certainly sees you." In the commentary of the scholar Ibn Rajab, he says this to worship Him as if you see Him, it requires reverence, fear, veneration, and glorification. It also requires sincerity in worship and the effort to make it excellent, complete, and perfect. The second aspect of ihsan is interaction with the creation, which is built by improving our character and mannerisms. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expresses the qualities of ihsan in our interactions with others in Surah Ali Imran, when He mentions those who spend in charity at times of ease and difficulty, who suppress their anger and pardon people, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who are excellent. Razi, in his tafsir, comments that if these three characteristics are combined in good behavior towards others, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned their reward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who are excellent. Indeed, the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His servant is the most comprehensive degree of reward. And this behavior in its highest form, the ihsan, occurs when we move past a transactional mindset and do good even to those who treat us poorly. As is narrated, Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam says, "Verily, excellence is that you are good to those who are evil to you, not merely that you are good only to those who are good to you." To end with a practical note, the best course for us to attain ihsan would be to pursue knowledge of the deen. learning more about the Aqidah, the creed of Islam, about the religious practices, and removing any doubts in our faith will undoubtedly lead us to increase our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My second practical advice, first starting with myself, relates to role models. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through His infinite mercy, provided us a role model. As He says in the Quran, لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. There has certainly been for you in the Messenger of Allah an excellent pattern for anyone whose hope is in Allah and the last day and who remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often. With that role model, we find a guide on how to live our lives in the perfect manner. Even though it's impossible for any of us to reach the level of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, pursuing his example allows us to keep in perspective our own deficiencies and propel us to the ranks of ihsan with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we all know, only the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can allow us to attain ihsan and to improve as individuals. Our role lies in the hard work we put in. To better ourselves to become pillars of the religion, we must dedicate ourselves to the deen. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps us on the straight path and allows us to achieve ihsan. Thank you.
Thank you, Raqib, for speaking about greatness. Now, our speaker, Adil, will talk about generosity.
Thank you. As Idris and Muhammad prefaced, I'll be speaking about generosity. All right. As human beings, we have an innate sense of morality. No matter what religion, race, or color we are, certain qualities serve as the moral standard. We admire bravery, honesty, and compassion. We also abhor those who demonstrate treachery, cruelty, or corruption. Moral standards are universal, and one of the most important aspects of Islam is adherence to high moral standards and good manners in society. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught Muslims to have the best of manners and distinguished characteristics. The Prophet's own high standards of moral and manners made him the best example for Muslims to follow. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, Surah Al-Qalam, Ayah 4, وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, which means in the closest meaning, and verily you, O Muhammad, are an exalted standard of character. Generosity was among the countless good qualities of Prophet Muhammad. He was the most generous of people, and particularly he used to be most generous in Ramadan. One day, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ offered a prayer in the mosque or the masjid, and then hurriedly went to his house and returned immediately. A companion asked why he left, and he replied, per Sahih al-Bukhari, I left a piece of gold at home which was given for charity, and I disliked letting it remain at a night in my house, so I brought it to the mosque to distribute. End quote. Our worldly possessions are bounties from Allah, who is the most generous. Muslims believe that everything originates from God and everything will return to Him. Thus, it is logical to behave as if that which we possess is merely a loan, something we are obligated to preserve, protect, and ultimately share. Whenever Prophet Muhammad ﷺ met a miserable person, he advised him to be more generous and charitable. Ibn Abbas said that he heard Prophet Muhammad ﷺ saying, and I quote, "The believer is not the one who eats when his neighbor beside him is hungry," end quote. Another companion heard the Prophet saying, and I quote, "The believer is simple and generous, but the wicked person is deceitful," end quote. Princeton University WordNet defines generosity as the willingness to give freely. Islam encourages this concept of generosity, so much so that it is embedded in one of the 5 pillars of Islam. the obligatory charity known as zakat. In Arabic, the term zakat literally means purification of the heart. However, it is also the payment from surplus money of an obligatory charity designed by God to provide for all the needy members of the community. It is a fixed amount. There is also another form of generosity in Islam called sadaqah, meaning optional charity. Linguistically, sadaqah means truthfulness, and some scholars have described it as the heart being truthful to its creator. Anything given generously, freely to others, with the intention of pleasing God is sadaqah. Sadaqah can be as simple as a smile, helping an elderly person with their groceries, removing objects from the road or path. Generosity can be viewed as a wise investment in the future. Generosity or sadaqah may pave the way to paradise, because with every generous act comes great reward from Allah. However, being generous does not only mean give freely from what you have in abundance. Generosity does not lie in giving away something that is no longer useful, but in giving freely from the things we love or need. Aisha, radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, said, and I quote, "A lady along with her two daughters came to me asking for such alms, but she found nothing with me except one date, which I gave to her, and she divided it between her two daughters." End quote, Al-Bukhari. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that whatever we give him or give away generously with the intention of pleasing him, he will replace and multiply. Allah knows what is in the hearts of men. So God is the one who provides for us, and he expects us to share generously. We are encouraged to be benevolent and unselfish with our possessions, with our time, and with our exemplary behavior toward others. Thank you.
Thank you, Adil, for talking. Thank you, Adil, for talking about generosity. Now we move on to our fifth and last speaker, which will be speaking about growth.
With all the other previous G's connecting to each other, growth is no different, for we all strive to grow our connection to Allah or grow to achieve goodness through our generosity. Growth is a means of self-development and can be identified in many ways, whether physically, mentally, or spiritually. We all choose or experience a sort of growth, allowing us to change either for the betterment of ourselves or for the worse. The first form of growth is spiritual growth. It is a journey that allows us to open our hearts and minds to the possibilities of improving our lives through our beliefs. It's about gaining an appreciation of what you already have and focusing on a better life purpose rather than living a life on materialistic beliefs. The second one is physical growth. The connection between mental and spiritual growth is further strengthened with the help of physical growth. They are very intertwined that one improves the benefits of the other and the lack of one may affect the overall result. For instance, the desire to grow physically begins with the mind, and the result of your physical efforts will depend on your attitude towards achieving your goal. And what could be perceived as the bridge between these two growths is mental growth. In such a high demanding and fast-paced world, a lot of people break down because they don't have the necessary tools to take control of their emotions and maintain a positive perspective in life. This is why mental growth is highly lauded in psychology, because it allows people to enjoy life and avoid or manage the most common mental health conditions like depression and anxiety. With spiritual growth, going more into that, the belief in Allah and the strength to not doubt Allah is what allows us to keep going. And with mental growth, if we have a weak mental, then we might possibly doubt Allah, and it could cause us to have flaws in our iman.
Thank you, Muad, for talking about growth. Thanks to all the speakers for speaking about such great and powerful topics. Now we're going to go on to the Q&A section. for the workshop. Um, this one's for Adil. Says, how can we find the strength to be generous in hostile situation, in places where we are not accepted, in places where we are met with conflict? How can we de-escalate a situation in which we have limited choice?
That's a paramount question, but I think the answer is pretty short actually. We should always be kind. We should motivate. We should empower. We should encourage. We should spread goodness. We should do our best at all times. If our actions are not reciprocated, that's okay. Just keep going. It will all bear fruit one day, and if you find yourself not able to do any of that, the least you can do is not hurt others. Just keep in mind, if they respect you, respect them. If they disrespect you, still respect them. If they're mean to you, be kind to them. If they curse and swear in your presence, offer a good word to them, and don't allow their bad actions to affect your good manners. And I mean this in the least patronizing way, but rise above them. Thank you.
Everybody stay muted for a minute.
Thank you for answering that question, Adil. Our next question says, it's towards all of you. How do you personally practice inclusion of others who identify themselves differently than you do?
The question is, how do you personally practice inclusion of others who identify themselves differently than you?
I guess one thing to remember is that we are is that as within the Muslim community, we're all brothers and sisters. So if we have different national, ethnic, cultural identities, then those things are secondary to the fact that we share our faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and are all working towards the goal of improving ourselves for the sake of Allah. When it comes to people outside of our community, it just comes down to having respect and just knowing where your differences are and why you have those differences, and just accepting that the principle that there's no compulsion in faith. So if someone has a different belief or different way of life, then you don't need to like associate yourself very closely to that person, but you can also still work with them if there's something you can gain from them. So it's just knowing your own boundaries, knowing their boundaries, and looking for a path that leads to attaining your goals and success in this life and the next.
Um, Thank you for all your questions, and thank you to the speakers again. Um, Thank you to the speakers again. Um, does anyone have any closing remarks? Well then, thank you again.
We are going to take a short 5-minute break. We will be returning at 11:35 with our next set of workshops. And so please stay tuned. It is the next workshop is in the Game of Thrones, Who Rules Your Heart. See you in about 5 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. We are starting our next conference in the Game of Thrones. Who rules your heart? The moderators for this and the speakers for this workshop are Malak Shams, Idris Ibrahim, and Fadl Barhoum.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Idris Ibrahim.
My name is Malak Shams.
My name is Fadl Barhoum. And today we are going to talk about Game of Thrones, Who Rules Your Heart. Although some might deny it, it is within human nature to idolize and worship. Some choose a divine entity, others chase fame, money, or external beauty. These are many things that can impose happiness and motivation in this world. Some may be religious and some may be materialistic. These religious and materialistic items may cause peace and stability within your heart, and you may feel satisfied with your life. But which choice brings true peace and contentment? What rules your heart? These items may drive your life while others don't. What drives us in life, it is the same as what rules our heart, or is it completely different? Some may want money and to be rich, while others want to be famous and rich. Some may want fame, and that is their goal in life and do anything to achieve it. Some may be religious, and religion is what rules their heart and drives them in life and will not stray from their religion. Some may pursue to stand up for other people and help other people in their struggles and achieve equality for all people. In this workshop, we ask different age groups questions of what drives them in life and what rules their heart. In this, we're going to show a quick 4-minute video where we interview different age groups of what drives them in life and what rules their heart. Right, bruh, that's dumb. I'm not muted. Okay. Should I? And then start sharing again.
She definitely helps a lot.
For our workshop, we made a video talking about what drives people in life.
What drives me in my life, I would probably say, would be my number one supporter, probably my mom. She definitely helps a lot with driving me and motivating me and helping me just do better as a person, as well as my general friends and family. They really just support me and inspire me a lot.
So what drives me the most in life is the motivation that I get from my parents and the fact that I really want to succeed. I have friends and I have family that all support me, and for that reason, I really learned to succeed in life and meet my goals and become a better person because of the support that I have.
What drives me and pushes me every day in my life is my religion. Even if it's in the smallest things, you're always constantly remembering to do your best. For example, if you're doing your homework, always do your best in it, because trying your best in Islam is what the Prophet would want you to do. Another thing is just living in general. You can't, like, for example, for me, I can't feel at peace if I don't pray. So my religion is what pushes me in my life and pushes me to do good. Islam teaches you to have good people around you. And another individual category that pushes me in my life is friends and family and like good people to trust. And Islam provides that. It helps me see who I can trust, who I can't trust. So Islam pushes me in my life.
What drives me is my religion and what my religion stands for. And my religion helps me get through my day.
enjoy. My friends, they're like family to me. Like if I get to know them for a while, then they're really close to me. And my family just like they're always there for me, and that's what helps me drive my life. What motivates me in life is my family, my friends, and my cat. I really love her. And wait, what am I going to say? Why do they drive you? Because they like support me. They like tell me that you should practice more. They like make me feel better about myself. I feel like I'm not that good at something, and that's why my friends and my family and my cat motivate me in my life. What motivates me in life? I mean, good question. Really complex. A lot of human beings are, but I'm more complex. Okay, so probably my family. I mean, I want to make them proud, you know? Like, like everyone does. They want to make their family proud, be something big, help a lot of people. A lot of things actually drive me in life, but I think the like first thing that drives me in life is probably my bird. I've had him for like 4 years. I got him for my birthday, and he's just always been there for me. It's kind of weird because he's just a little red, green, fluffy bird, but he's just there for me. He just sits on my shoulder, whether I'm alone or if I have my family in the house. Another thing that drives me in life is maybe the thought of making the world change a little bit, whether if it's just like a small place in the world or a huge place in the world. It really drives me to like just keep going on.
All right. So I guess I just wanted to talk a little bit about why we made the video. So the reason why I really wanted to make this video and ask people what their motivation was because something that I learned recently is that motivation is like one of the driving forces behind human behavior, and it basically fuels competition and sparks our social connection. And actually, its absence can lead to things like mental illness and depression. And motivation is what gives us the desire to continue striving towards, you know, a meaning and purpose to life. And um, yeah, so to live a life worth living. Basically, it's the desire to act in order to achieve a goal, and it's very crucial in general when you're trying to reach a goal. So basically, what drives us is going to be what inspires us to do what we do, and whichever thing we choose to drive us is what's going to lead us to make the choices that we make in life. So if we choose money, we're going to do what we got to do to get money. If we choose fame, we're going to do what we got to do to get the fame. But the truth is that these things will never truly give us happiness and contentment in the long run. It might bring temporary happiness, but the happiness doesn't last forever. And oftentimes, in order to reach this kind of happiness, we may do questionable things that we may regret later. So, thankfully, in this video, a lot of people mentioned like positive things. Some people mentioned their friends, family, their pets, music, or a sport that they loved. And all those things are really great, but at the end of the day, our main source of motivation should always come from Allah, and our strive to reach the next, or Jannah, basically the next life. And I feel like recently, especially within this generation, there's a huge issue with what people tend to prioritize in their lives. When we prioritize worldly commodities, oftentimes we're left with like a void in our hearts. And realistically speaking, worldly things are never guaranteed. They're not stable. They come and go. Religion, however, and Allah, they never go away, and religion never changes. So what we need to do is really focus on and prioritize our relationship with Allah, and our relationships with others, the way we treat others for the sake of Allah. And I just wanted to quickly mention a hadith that I learned recently is narrated by Bukhari, and it goes, none will taste the sweetness of faith until he loves a person for the sake of Allah, and until Allah and His Messenger are more beloved to him than anything else. Thank you. I am going to let Fadl speak for a little bit now.
Thank you, Malak. That was really beautiful. I would just like to elaborate on religion and the motivation of religion that we have in our lives. During the video, many people spoke about religion, friends, families, pets, sports, and in general, most of it was materialistic, while some of it was religion. And the thing with religion is that many of us are motivated by it. Many of us never stray away from our religion. Some people pursue the religion to extents that they want to achieve happiness within their heart. And with Islam, it comes from the word peace, along with other many meanings of it. It has a variety of meanings, but one of it is peace. So when we practice Islam, we want to try to achieve peace in our hearts. And for the past 1400 plus years, it has never changed. And many people have achieved peace in their hearts. Many of us have Muslims our whole lives, and we have learned many morals and ethics from Islam that drives us in life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran that, that Islam will never change. And many people try to fit their lifestyle into Islam instead of Islam into their lifestyle. And that is one of the reasons why some books in the past have changed, such as the Bible or the Torah. So they try to fit their lifestyle into their religion, while instead they try to change themselves to fit their religion. And this is one of the great beauties of Islam, is that we have to change ourselves to fit Islam. We have to achieve peace in ourselves first before we can fully like embrace Islam and have peace in our heart. And that is one of the great things that I love when and during the video when some people talk about religion and that what drives them in life, as that is one of the things that drives me in life, is Islam, the religion, being Muslim in general, and having people around me that are also Muslims so we can share the same interests, the same ideals, the same morals and ethics that we all have in Islam, so they can all be a cohesive unit that drives us in life and motivates us. Next up, we have Idris. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fadl and Malak, for speaking. That was very well put. As my fellow speakers have prefaced, religion is very important to us, especially as Muslims, to incorporate it into our hearts and our desires. And so, with that being said, I'm going to now talk about the opposite end, which is non-religious ideals and desires that may rule your heart and how they compare to religion. And so the opposite of religion would be philosophy. And because if you're not religious and you do not have a sort of religious ideal to format your life and to give you guidelines on how to regulate your life, your desires, and things like that, you eventually have your own desires that you sort of strive to achieve. And those desires basically become your life philosophy. And so, first, I'm going to be defining religion and philosophy and the key differences between the two. And then I'm going to speak about how they intertwine and how they differ as well. And so, philosophy is basically a pursuit of wisdom by intellectual search and logical reasoning. That's the dictionary definition of philosophy. Whereas religion is a belief in a supreme power, in our case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and worshiping it as the creator and controller of the universe. And so, as you can see, just from the definition, the biggest difference is that philosophy sort of pursues intellectual search and logical thinking and reasoning. And so it's focused more on the human aspect of ourselves, which in turn also amplifies the human aspect of our desires. and it might or it might not eventually lead to you sort of falling into misconduct and sort of becoming a slave, so to speak, to your desires, because there's not really a single purpose or like a religious deity that you follow and that you worship with guidelines. And so eventually you and your own philosophy become the guidelines for your desires. And sometimes that can lead to, you falling into sin and bad things and whatever else. And in Surah Al-Qasas, ayah 77, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وابتغ فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك ولا تبغ الفساد في الأرض إن الله لا يحب المفسدين. And a very brief translation is, but seek through that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, the home of the hereafter, and do not forget your share of the world. Do good as Allah has done good to you, and desire not corruption in the land. Indeed, Allah does not like corrupters. So from this ayah, we can see that religion doesn't tell us that we can't follow our desires. It doesn't tell us that if we can't make money, we can't try and live a happy life in the dunya. It just tells us to moderate ourselves and sort of not cause fitna. And I think that's the biggest difference between philosophy versus religion, because religion is sort of, it's basically a guideline that's telling us, do what you got to do. If you need money, make money. If you want to have a family, do all that, but everything's in moderation. Whereas philosophy is sort of like, you kind of basically explore the human underlying concepts of whatever your desire is, and there's not really any sort of higher power that governs you. It's mostly like you governing your own desires within yourself. And so I think that's the biggest difference between religion and philosophy. And sometimes people can say, oh, religion is kind of constricting, it doesn't really let you do anything. And that's why some people might turn away from Islam, especially. But as we can see from this ayah, Islam does allow us to do anything just like anyone else. It just tells us to do things in moderation. So I think that's the biggest misconception as well about Islam. And I think, yeah, so when it comes to ruling your heart and your desires, definitely keep your desires in check. Use Islam as a guideline, or use your whatever else religion you may follow. There are a lot of other religions that also sort of help moderate and things of that sort. But Islam is like, it's basically a lifestyle. That's, I think, the biggest blessing about Islam is that it kind of, as I've said previously, it entails almost every single aspect in your life. So from sleeping to eating to drinking to all those things, it's basically mentioned. And so it's really an easy way for you to sort of have a guideline and be able to enjoy your worldly desires, but make sure to restrain, I think, is the biggest message. We're now going to move on to the Q&A. So if there are any questions, we will be checking in on those and answering them. If not, we do have a few questions that we would like to open up to the other panelist members and anyone in the online thing.
So there is a question on Q&A. How do you intend on harnessing these ideas through this event and its implications and the ways that contribute to young Muslims worldwide? So it's very important for the topic that you are speaking about, Fadl, Malak, and Idris. Would you like to answer this?
Yeah, sure. So what we really want people to get out of this presentation, hopefully, is for everyone to take a close look at themselves and ask themselves what drives them, what keeps them going, what rules their heart. And if they find that the answer is like a worldly or material commodity, I really encourage everyone to try to change their intentions and try to let their motivation stem from something that's a lot deeper and more important. Idris or Fadl?
So a question that we sort of came up with was sometimes people view religious values. We're going to be using Islam here for as an example. Sometimes people view religious values as sort of outdated and not really able to be used in modern society. So the question is basically, what is your stance on that argument? Do you think that Islam can be incorporated into modern society without sort of basically taking away from the root of Islam and the essence of Islam?
Oh, that's a great question, Idris. In my opinion, how we can incorporate Islam into our modern society is that one of the main questions of this is does Islam need to change or can it just stay the same? One of the main issues is Sharia law, as many of us have known. Um, can we still incorporate into modern society, or are they outdated, as the question asks? So, some of the Sharia law are outdated, and the punishments that we do and how they back 1400 years ago and how they were incorporated as the societal norm. But now, since it is already 2022, um, are they still relevant? Are they still incorporated into Islamic countries such as Saudi Arabia and the Middle East? Are they still incorporated there or have they changed? And what I think is that Islam does not need to change into modern society because it is so perfectly balanced. There are many things that have stayed the same. They don't need to change as much as other things to change, such as maybe people need to change to fit Islam. Because in my opinion, Islam is perfect. There is no change. There is no need to change. The only thing that needs change is ourselves and how we can incorporate Islam into our modern society as well as we incorporate ourselves with Islam to modern society.
Thank you for that, Fadl. I think that was a very good take. And I will say that I don't think it has to be changed, more as sort of incorporating Islamic ideals into your lifestyle without kind of changing yourself too much. Because at the end of the day, as Muslims, from the get go, we already have like rules and regulations and things like that that help us sort of be catered and tailored more towards what would be considered the quote unquote ideal Muslim. And so I think that for the most part, even like as a new Muslim, for example, like a convert, you don't have to follow every single rule from the get go. Of course, you have to learn and educate yourselves on the religion. But I think that, there's like some fundamentals of the religion which are non negotiable. And then there are some which can also be incorporated into modern society without taking away the Islamic concept of it.
So our next question is, without religion, whatever rules and influences your heart becomes a sort of philosophical code for yourself. Do you think religion and philosophy can coexist? And if so, why or why not?
right, can you ask the question one more time, just so?
So the question was, without religion, whatever rules and influences your heart becomes a sort of philosophical code for yourself. Do you think religion and philosophy can coexist? Why or why not?
So let's look at it from both sides. So, can you hear? So let's look at it from both sides. If you think of philosophy, generally speaking, you think of it as Idris sort of preface, partially, as a practice aimed at wisdom, knowledge, understanding about basic questions about reality, humanity, morality, uh, and yeah, just other fundamental categories. Then I guess all religion has some philosophy. In that regard, I think all religions engage with philosophy, as all religions are making claims about those same fundamental categories as philosophy. But I also think that there are parts of religious practices that are not philosophical, even if it's susceptible to philosophical inquiry. So, uh, like examples would be like love, devotion. So examples would be like love, devotion, reverence, are though philosophically interesting, they're not the same as like philosophical practice. Yeah, so not sure if I'll leave it at that.
Well, thank you for that. If there are no closing remarks, we will be closing the panel. All right. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Malak, Idris, Fadl, for your presentation on what on this topic. At this time we are going to take a break, and we will be back shortly with our next presentation workshop. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We will be beginning, starting in 5 minutes. At 12:15, we'll resume our workshops again. Assalamualaikum everyone, welcome back. I just want to tell all our audience about how unique this conference is. This conference is a total work of all of the juniors and seniors at Oregon Islamic Academy. They've been working on this conference for past 3.5, 4 months, planning every aspect. And we're trying to, also the trickiest part was for them to make sure how they could stay under the pandemic restrictions as well, coming up with a creative way to be together, to have this conference feel yet be safe at the same time during these hard times as well. This is the first time that Oregon Islamic students have put up a conference that is completely from start to finish has been a work of student work. Actually, they had teacher mentors, Dr. Wazi Saeed, who is the president of Muslim Educational Trust and 11th and 12th grade critical thinking and Quran teacher this year as well. Along with him, there were other teachers, teacher Julie, teacher Jawad, teacher Marwa, teacher Maysoon, and several other teachers, Sheikh Mohammed, who's the Imam of our masjid, who helped them go through all of these topics, who helped them come up and conceptualize every single workshop. I want to give a shout out to every student, but particularly to Adil, Amira, and Selma, who worked on the logistics of the conference up to every single second and minute of the conference, when and how all of these topics are going to flow, and when we are going to have breaks, what time when we're going to start. So every aspect, every little detail of this conference was worked on by the students themselves. So again, we are hoping that it becomes an annual tradition at Oregon Islamic Academy, and this is not just the first one, but the next year we'll be joined by in person, hopefully with everyone, to do this in person. So the next workshop that we are going to have is a very interesting one. It's very eye-opening for a lot of students, and has many aspects that we are always thinking. This world is it's changing rapidly, and the roles of both genders is always being questioned all the time. However, from the Islamic perspective, we already know our duties and responsibilities. But as youth growing up now, not just in the West, but also in the East, these questions are always arising. How do we treat each other? How do we treat the other as well? For the workshop Proclaiming the Truth and Claiming the Positive Narrative, we have Nimatullah and Ghufran as the moderators, and Amira, Salma, Malak, Bahar, Huda, and Mona are the speakers. I'm going to invite Nimatullah Hussein, 11th grader, and Ghufran Tahir, 11th grader, to speak now.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the Gen Z Proclaiming the Truth and Claiming the Positive Narrative. For this workshop, we will be focusing specifically on the empowerment of Muslim women. And we have two organizations with us today who are going to speak about something they truly believe in, which is MYE and Muslim STEMinist. We will let them introduce themselves, beginning with Huda, who will talk about Muslim STEMinist, and then Amira, who will talk about MYE.
Assalamu alaikum. As you already know, my name is Huda, but I am a co-founder of the Muslim Feminist, and so is Wana Dahir, Bahar Madani, and Malak Shams. And together we have a student-led media startup on Instagram, and we aim that aims to promote and support young students or young Muslim women specifically who are interested in STEM by showcasing other successful Muslim women in STEM and leaders across America via podcasts and workshops. Together, we showcase successful women in STEM and the students studying within the STEM field. So, with that, we interview them about their journey and their advice towards young Muslim women hoping to follow in their footsteps. And we've created an interactive platform that is a safe place for young Muslim women to discuss the barriers and challenges they face.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Amira, and I'm the co-founder along with Sanma of Muslima Youth Empowerment or MYE. And it's an organization that strives to create a safe space for young Muslim women where they can empower each other to become passionate leaders in their communities and speak out against discrimination or prejudice they face. And by doing so, we highlight Muslim leaders around the world, whether in our communities nationally or globally, whether it's through our community workshops or our Instagram or our podcast that Salma and I co-host called Power Code.
So we'll jump right in right now with a video where we asked a bunch of Oregon Islamic students, academy students, about empowerment as a whole. And some of these answers are really interesting, and they are one of the reasons why this workshop was made. So let's begin with that.
Okay, gonna start again.
Time for equality.
Is it working?
What phrase or word comes to mind when you hear feminism?
Power.
Men can do things that women can't do, and like we're trying to make them equal.
Women.
Achieve more than people think. Good people.
I'm not sure.
Inequality.
Woman.
The community.
Global gender equality for all.
When women's getting stronger. Empowerment.
Nothing. Women.
The right to vote. I don't know. It's not fair for women because they can do what boys can do, girls can do as well.
Rights and empowerment.
women, men standing together, fighting for women's rights, fighting for equality around gender, strong and unique.
Who is your role model? My big sister is my role model.
My mother. NBA players.
My mother. My mom.
I don't think I have one.
Kevin Durant.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Aisha, Prophet Muhammad's daughter.
Malcolm X.
My mom. My dad.
My parents. I don't have a specific one.
My mom. My mom. Prophet Ibrahim. My family. My parents.
My older brother or my dad. My dad as a role model.
How do you see the future? The world is going to become a better place.
I don't really see the future filled with mysteries.
A better place for us to live in. As a society combined together and united.
Stemming away from patriarchy and women empowerment.
COVID ending. Scary.
Space travel becoming more common.
World peace. Hot. Flying animals. It's more justice or civil rights.
A lot of technology developing.
Finish the sentence. I am beautiful and I am smart. I am strong. A Muslim.
Confident.
The greatest. A woman. I'm creative.
Compassionate.
A swimmer. Creative.
Curious.
I am Simone. Tired. I am wise. A Muslim.
Brave, strong. A learner. And a student.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Afran, and we've seen the video, and there's so much we learn and understand. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Afran, and you guys have watched the video, and there's so much we see and understand, and you can just see these kids' perspectives on things, and the words and their responses can have a deeper meaning. And so, how about we start the discussion with Amira?
Yeah, all right. I kind of want to begin this discussion by defining feminism and defining women empowerment. Because I think the first question we asked was, what is one phrase or word that you can think of when you hear feminism and women empowerment? And what you don't know about that video is that for some kids, we asked them, what do you think of feminism? And for some, we asked, what do you think of women empowerment? For the word feminism, it's not a common word, and it's something that you need to understand what it is, while women empowerment, you can kind of use those keywords of woman and power, put them together. You could think of it as the upliftment of women. So feminism, it's important to understand that feminism is the movement. It's the movement of the supporting equal rights for women, while women empowerment is the process. It's the way that we work together to uplift women. And in both cases, it's important to understand that feminism and women empowerment isn't only centered around women, but all genders. It requires both men and women, as some students even stated, to work together and to create these movements, to create these ideas, and to put them in action to see how can we uplift women. And how you saw through the video is that there is a lack of knowledge around feminism, and how we need to understand that it's respecting the diversity in women, whether it's their perspectives, their experiences, their way of life. And I want to go into the second question, which we wanted to ask, who is their role model? We wanted to see not only what gender would they pick in their role model, but also what would be a common answer. And as we saw, the common answer was their mother. I like to think of it that the moment that we are born into this life, most people have a female figure automatically. Our mother is the one that cradles us into this complex integration of life. And the mother is what comforts us. It's what gives us the warmth, the wisdom, the patience. And we need to understand that without women in society, right? Women create the society, and without them there is no society, there is no way of life. And yet we still live in a society, or I'm going to say sometimes our feudal cultures, that we still downgrade women in their roles. And I think this is a perfect way to begin our discussion talking about feminism and the implications in society.
Another question that we'd like to go into is what kind of what sparked the creation of both of our organizations, which all of us can go into, because a lot of times when we bring up we are founders of a social media startup, people are amazed, they're shocked. Where did this come from? We need more people like this. We need more young Muslim women who are empowering each other. And each of us are going to go into a little bit about why we came in, what was our reason for coming into creating these organizations. And I think Bahar is going to go first.
So I kind of got the idea. I got the idea for the Muslim feminist when I needed guidance throughout high school, and I really wanted to be part of STEM and be, like, for example, and like maybe go into medicine. But the thing is, when you for example go to the hospital or go to the doctors or a tech company, you don't see many um, hijab wearing women or people that, let's say, look like me. So I wanted to and then we created a platform where we put a spotlight on the women and all the women who are doing these things, all the Muslim women who are doctors, scientists, teachers, dentists, all that really cool stuff. And we are going to compile them in a form to inspire and motivate younger girls based on their achievements and experiences.
I know Amira already spoke on this, but I wanted to ask everyone else, what was their first response or their first reaction to seeing some of the answers that were given for the video?
Okay, so I was the one who asked the questions in the videos, and Amira was the one who was filming. And so together, the both of us, we heard a variety of many different answers. And while it was a little challenging to get started at first, what we asked of every person was that the first word that comes into their mind is the thing that they're going to say. And a lot of times it may not have been what we wanted to hear or what we expected to hear, but that was the true rawness in what they had to say, what was on their mind. And that really shows like the diversity in the answers that we showed throughout our video, and kind of the different perspectives we have and the steps that we can take to continue to teach our younger students, our siblings, our friends about what feminism really is, what it's like to empower women, and that any of us can do it no matter our gender or race or religion.
And I wanted to mention a point. When we were asking these questions, at times we would change the order. So our original order, like it was in the video, the first was, what do you think of women empowerment? The second was, who is your role model? The third is, how do you see the future? And the fourth is, I am. At times we saw how sometimes with the people that we started with, asking them, what do you think of women empowerment? They would kind of base off their answers around women. They think, oh, they want to hear something about women. They want to hear that women are great and everything. So let's talk about female role models, and let's say that the future is all going to be about women and empowerment. But then when we switched up the answers, for example, when we asked them, how do you see the future first? You'll see as they slowly went through the questions, when we ended with women empowerment, they said a completely different answer. They didn't think of the future as filled with women, for example, upliftment of women, but of materialistic things or of things on their mind, like Huda was stating. Or when they said the role model, they didn't state, for example, a female figure. So it's so important how we wanted to mix up the questions to kind of get their true responses. Because initially when you ask a question, they're going to base off their answer to what you think, what they know, what you want to hear. And specifically, I'm going to mention the boys, because how most of the boys were the ones who didn't really understand what women empowerment was, or a lot of the answers was that they didn't want to involve themselves in it. Again, like I stated in the beginning, women empowerment and feminism, this movement and process is not only catered towards women. It's the men need to come together as well with women to it's all a process of unity. We need to work together. Men cannot just be bystanders, but they need to work with women. And so, like I said, a lot of their answers was they don't want to deal with women empowerment, or they don't know what it is because they don't want to put themselves in quote unquote uncomfortable situations.
I guess this really shows the importance, especially with our organizations, mainly being specifically for Muslims and Muslimas, and just focusing and really understanding really teaching youth young and teaching the kids younger that it's important to be in solidarity with your brothers and sisters and movements, and if they are oppressed and if they're fighting for their rights, that you also are fighting with them, and that you're not complicit in their oppression or in their struggle for freedom, and really as one ummah coming together to fight for the struggle as one. And to also, just to give a little bit of context, with our organization, Muslim Youth Empowerment, the reason why we both initially started it is we didn't want to wait any longer for the change. We didn't want to wait for someone else to make that impact or to start something for our community. We wanted to do it ourselves. We wanted to see that change and to make sure those who are younger than us didn't have to experience all the struggles and hurdles that we did. And we wanted to just put our frustrations and all of this and all that we experienced towards creating something that could even make the smallest impact.
I think that's why our organization is Muslim Youth Empowerment. We saw in our own communities, in our own cultures, how they've always put women off to the side, while Islam has highlighted and uplifted women in so many different ways. Islam has given women roles. Islam has given women power. Yet we were so tired of being in our society, in our cultures, that kept pushing us to the side, kept saying that we weren't good enough, kept saying that leave it to the men. And again, this is all about empowerment, and we wanted to start young. Our organization, we wanted to help this next generation when we didn't get help. We didn't want the next leaders. We didn't want other young Muslim women to go through what we had to go through. We wanted them to see these Muslim leaders everywhere, not like us where we had to go and find them. And at times, I didn't even know they existed. I didn't know there was someone who looked like me or someone who shared my values. And so I think that's what our organization highlights, and also Muslim STEMinists in the STEM field. It's all about making sure that this next generation, and also currently, we're able to see people who look like us. We're able to create this representation, and together we can be united and empower each other.
And that's why the Muslim STEMinists and MYE collab together, because of our similar goals that we have. As a more STEM driven organization, we've been able to gear towards Muslim women while also incorporating our faith, and we also discuss faith and science at the same time. We have been able to meet scientists and doctors and researchers and connected with other bloggers and entrepreneurs and organizations with similar goals. And until working on the Muslim STEMinist project and with MIE, I also never really knew of the amount of other Muslim women who are doing similar things that we are doing. And together we have created connections. And now we have young Muslim women who are telling us stories of how people may have assumed certain things about them because of their skin color or the hijabs that they wear. And we're now receiving outpouring experiences of what we do collectively, and like how we're creating this space that allows these young Muslim women to thrive while and it has been very rewarding experience for all of us. And I'm personally grateful to have been a founding member who has helped create a space to share these ideas and experiences, as well as values.
Going back to what Huda previously mentioned about talking to these young Muslim women, we also asked them questions about like how they deal with their faith and how they deal with struggles they faced as scientists or as doctors. And through the Muslim STEMinists, we've been able to highlight how they can overcome these struggles, how they can be better role models. And we've seen how big of an impact this is. We also been inspired by their stories. We've also been taking their advice to heart and like putting it in our actual like research or doing it in our actual like daily lives.
Yeah, and we have gotten advice from them, and we share that advice on our page, and it really helps anyone who's interested in STEM. And all the women that we've interviewed have been so kind and have been willing to help and give advice. And they're also hoping to see more young Muslim women strive within STEM fields. And I think that's one of the best parts about what we do.
I was gonna ask, so to really like make a change with this image of women and like the discrimination and everything, what do you guys think should be taught for like the younger ones to really change this generation?
I think we took the first step in initiating and creating a space where we bring people who look like us and people who share the same values, and allowing the younger women to look up to them, to be in the same space. So I think that's definitely a progressive step. And with both of our organizations, what we've been doing is, whether it's community workshops, engaging the youth with other Muslim leaders, whether it's using our Instagram or social media to again highlight Muslim leaders and highlight also young women who want change and who have words of wisdom themselves, or who want to share what they want in the future, or whether it's through our podcast where we interview others, and we also hear from our youth again, what do they want. So I think that's definitely a step. And again, I think it always starts within the community, from both genders, women and men, and understanding that our community will not progress unless we uplift one another, unless we follow Islam's teachings of, we are all equal and we are all empowered under the same rulings, right? We need to be able to support each other, to encourage each other, to offer help. And that's truly how we could uplift one another, and create this woman empowerment.
And as she mentioned, us taking this step in creating these organizations, this is just one step. Our work is not done. We have to continue to inspire young girls, young women who may not feel like they can succeed. We have to change that mindset, that little voice in our head that tells us we can't do it, because we may have heard that from someone else and it's stuck with us, and we're going to continue to pass that on to younger children. And that creates this whole cycle that's never going to end. So it really starts with each one of us taking the step to change that mindset in our head and begin advocating for other young Muslim women. So, and then with that, we can go ahead and help other young Muslim women and men, and like our siblings, our cousins, our future kids, that they are able, that they can succeed, and that they can do anything that they put their mind to.
Okay, we want to ask one last question. So what do you hope to achieve through the creation of this video?
If there's one thing that I want everyone to take from this video, is to go out and learn, to really go out and whatever movement, whatever is going on, to really put yourself out there and to really involve yourself and to educate yourself. If you know that there is something wrong going on, do not just sit back and think that this is not my problem, this doesn't impact me, so why should I care? it is important as one community to really come together and to fight for the freedom of everyone. And that is one thing. And this is to both the boys and girls, and to and especially with everything we're doing, really starting young, really having these conversations young. If you saw, there's so many young students in this video that were already starting to put those connections, especially towards the end of the video. They were really learning. So realizing it's never too late to make an impact. Whether you are a third grader or going off to college, or no matter what, that you can make a difference now. Even the smallest change can, like, this was just an idea, and now look, like, we've had a whole organization now, and we're really trying to make that impact. So don't think that just because you're one person, you can't make an impact. You can do it.
And I'd also like to add on to that, that we are young minorities in a country that isn't necessarily built for us as Muslim, as people of color. But instead of looking at what we don't have and all of the struggles that we have to face, it's more about taking the opportunities that you do have and making something out of it. So now we've presented this video to you and we've told you guys a little bit about our organizations. You have an opportunity to go and DM us because we will answer, and we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to meet some of you and talk to you and give you advice, or just look on our page. There's so many scientists, there's researchers, there's doctors, mathematicians, like there's anyone in the STEM field is showcased on our page. And if you are even considering any of that, you will find some kind of advice or maybe some kind of guidance on what to do, because it is a little bit confusing. A lot of us don't have much guidance, and that's what this page is for. It's here to help you just as much as it's here to help us. And with that, like, as young Muslim women who continue to empower one another, a quote that helps me at least is by Eleanor Roosevelt, and it's that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So no one, if someone goes and tries to belittle you, it's up to you on whether or not you want to take a stand, as an example. So you are in charge of what you do. You may not be in control of what happens to you, but you are in charge of how you react in that situation, and what you make out of any opportunity that presents.
And I want to leave you all with this. You know, change starts within ourselves. And the foundation for change, I truly believe, is being able to speak up and ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask questions. If you want to learn more about something, ask questions. In this video, the little kids were asking us, what is feminism? What is women empowerment? Or what is the future? Can I say anything? What is it? Ask questions, because that's the only way we can progress. We could progress either within ourselves, our community, and society. So, you know, it's not always easy to speak up. You know, sometimes we're, you know, told that's the wrong answer. Sometimes we're always shunned away. But that's what makes it more memorable. That's what makes it more empowering. That's what makes it so much more impactful. Being able to speak up against all odds, that's where the real change happens. That's when you initiate a long-lasting, I'm going to say, revolution. So ask questions and never be afraid to speak up.
And just to wrap up, go and learn about your religion. Go seek the truth and really create that conviction for yourself, even though it's not easy. What this video really represents for me is hope. And what we all have discussed is we really want to create this change. So don't forget, to anyone that's listening, you have a voice and you have something to contribute. We all should be a part of this movement. Right? So I know it's not easy to have these conversations, and it's okay to be uncomfortable, but at times, but just really try to involve yourself so we can build our community and not continue the cycle.
Amira, Salma, Nimatullah, Ghufran, Huda, Bahar, Mona, and Malak. I forgot to put Malak here. Thank you so much for the amazing presentation. I actually have several questions for you guys, but we talked about after watching this video was amazing. And I really like the thought process that you shared with us, Amira, and for how you did move around the questions. And I loved how many varieties of students that you questioned, or age groups that you questioned. What I do want to know is that in one of, I believe, Huda and Amira and Salma, you did bring it up a little bit in terms of that, you know, that we need to work together. And when we say we, who are we talking about? Who is this we? The society, but the society is made up of, you know, the females and the males. How do we find these male allies? How can we motivate our male allies? We are sitting here right now, we're talking about what amazing work women have done in the fields, in different fields, and especially Muslim women. How do we get these Muslim male allies to become an active ally, not just verbal ally? What advice do you have for the young gentlemen who are watching this, who are in the audience, to become an active ally?
I think that I just had something. Senma, do you want to go ahead?
I can start again with that idea of really educating yourself. I know that for me, when I started to learn more, to seek out knowledge, to really like read more books about all these ideas and all these movements, it really made a difference. And it made me not just, keep this idea that I've been fed my whole life, or keep this narrative and just only kind of look back to that as information. There's so much that's going on, and you have the power to really uplift others around you and to make change. So don't just sit around waiting for someone to tell you, oh, this is what's right or this is what's wrong. You have to create that for yourself. You can't just like be narrow-minded as well. You have to be open to these ideas. Go read books, have discussions with your classmates. Don't just stick to this idea your whole life that you've been taught. This is how these cycles continue. If you just look back to what has been before you and not continue, this is how change is never made. If we want to
What
really
is the
build our
change
own
that you're talking about? How do
really try
we
to help these
make,
efforts.
what is this change? How do you envision this change? Salma, Amira, Nimatullah, Huda, how do we envision this change?
Can I just say one moment that in the video that really stood out to me was, I don't know if it was in one of the speakers, or one of the people being questioned was actually my little sister, and she was saying, I know that took some effort, especially when recording, I was there, but when she was saying, I'm smart, I'm beautiful, it took some like a little bit of a question, but she really making that louder. So I guess what that all means to this question is creating a future where especially our young girls are not feeling like they have no voice, and that they have no like place to really make really add anything, or they don't have a future that they can be successful, or they can pursue anything that they really want, or really feel like they have that belief in themselves. Like creating that change, one thing means that not feeling like there's just, I'm just a girl, so therefore I can't achieve all that I want to dream or anything like that. So just making sure that we don't have these young people feeling this way, and that feeling like they don't matter, that they don't, what their dreams or whatever it is, that they can achieve it simply because on the basic.
To answer your question,
I think it's our main thing that there is a need for us young Muslim women to
push each other up and uplift each other and create these organizations so we're able to stir up some confidence within each other. And the change that I want to see is that we do it out of will and not out of need. We shouldn't have to fight for equality or justice within the work environment or anything like that. It should be us willing to support each other in what our aspirations are. It should be us kind of wanting to do it because we enjoy it. We should be talking with each other to learn more from each other, not because there's a lack of understanding or a lack of awareness. And so just differentiating that there's it's out of will and not need will be a huge step towards the feminism movement.
I also would like to add, as a person who has a little bit experience in life, that it's important to have an open dialogue. It's open to have this discourse. We should not shy away from these questions from the young men who are in this audience right now listening to this, and the young ladies. Young men, if you have these questions, do not shy and away from asking this question. You're not actually disrespecting. You are disrespecting when you do not ask these questions, when you do not engage with your sisters in these discourse. Then we are creating a society that is imbalanced. We want to create a balanced society. Islam is all about balance, right? We hear the word mizan in the Quran at several places. We only consider mizan, the word term mizan, as in it's only going to be judging our good deeds and bad deeds. No, but mizan is used for every aspect of our life. Islam has that, we are created men and women, and we balance each other out. So how do we create a society? How do we create a Muslim society and a society in general, or a world with peace that is not balanced amongst our Muslim ideology or between our both genders? This discourse helps, this allowing us to talk about these aspects, asking the females that how can we be an ally? What would you like us to do to be part of this movement, right? And not getting offense of when a guy comes up or a young man comes up and says, I do not know anything, how can I be helpful to you? You don't get offended by that. You should be actually feel honored that they're coming to you to ask instead of going somewhere else, right? So an open discussion is a very important thing as well. As Selma kept on saying, read, study. Who should we go read and study? First, the Prophet ﷺ and all the other prophets. They were examples of equality and equity. So their lives are what we want to study. Then there are so many other great leaders, male and female, throughout the history that we want to study as well. And also emulate our parents, emulate our grandparents who have been living in harmony with both genders, how they were doing it correctly. I hope that opens up this discussion. Amira, you were trying to say something.
I think for both genders, understand that you need to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. There's going to be some very difficult conversations you might have to have. You're going to be reading thoughts that you might not agree with, but being able to just understand and listen, and then you could have some ideas, have thoughts circulating, and then ask questions. But without being uncomfortable, then you're not allowing yourself to open up. You're not allowing yourself to change your perspective, to change your mindset, and to actually be an ally. And I think this is also specifically geared to men, but also women who, like Teacher Juwaria stated, we both need to work together. And how do we do that? By understanding that we're not all going to have the right answers, and that we're always going to be asking questions and always going to be looking for the answers. And so, yeah.
I also want to, before we move on to our break real quickly, I also want to say that this is a process that everybody is learning. Even as an experienced adult, I am still learning how to interact, how to answer questions. We will never have the correct answers, but the strive to get the correct answers, the strive to have the good behavior, a positive behavior towards all of this is going to make us a better human and create a better society, inshallah. Thank you. As I said, STEMinists and Muslim MYE, Muslim Youth Empowerment groups, for your participation in this workshop. This was very enlightening. And this workshop should be a whole conference on its own one day, inshallah. And I hope many of you have learned something from this or from this discussion and are more encouraged to learn more about it. And if you have any questions, you can find MYE at MYE on Instagram and Muslim STEMinists on Instagram as well. Please go ahead and share your handles later on as well, ladies, inshallah. We are going to take a 2-minute break and we'll be back at 1:05 for our last conference, last workshop, which is the challenges and the opportunities of the American Muslim youth. Inshallah, see you in about 3 minutes. Assalamualaikum, everyone. We will be starting in 1 minute. Assalamualaikum, everyone. Welcome back. We are about to start our last session of our youth conference. We'd like to thank everyone for participation, 11th and 12th grade, especially for their hard work for putting in and creating all these amazing workshops and all the materials for the workshop. We also would like to thank the audience for attending today and being part of this amazing historical event, because this is the very first youth conference by Oregon Islamic Academy students, and we would like, inshallah, for it to become an annual event from now on. The last workshop of the day is it's actually a more a free flowing discussion type workshop. The speakers moderators are Muna Daher, Huda Basharo, and Adil Mohammed, who are the seniors class of 2022 at Oregon Islamic Academy. The topic is the challenges and opportunities of American Muslim youth. We have approximately about 20 minutes for this workshop and for to answer any of the questions throughout the conference as well. I welcome Muna, Huda, and Adil.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. And today we're going to be talking about challenges and opportunities. And one thing we want to clear up when we talk about challenges and opportunities is that challenges and opportunities go hand in hand. So whenever you have a challenge, there's always going to be an opportunity that comes out of it. Or whenever you have an opportunity, there's always going to be a challenge. And one experience that I had over the summer was at OHSU, and I was able to intern and get to know computer science really well. And during this internship, I saw that there wasn't anyone like me. There was no Muslim woman there. There was no Black woman there. There was not even a woman in general at that whole experience that I had. And I saw that as a huge challenge because I felt like, there's no one that I can relate to here. But actually, by the end of the conference, I realized I can relate to the people that were actually there. I realized that these people also have diverse backgrounds, so I can learn, I can connect better with them. And one thing I just want to mention is that when you face these sort of situations, you shouldn't look at it as an awful thing or something that is bad, but also take it into consideration that you can use this for the better. You can use this to get to know people better or understand things better. And yeah, we're going to be talking about opportunities we also face and challenges that we face through our internships or opportunities we had. And we can start off with Huda.
Okay, so as members of marginalized communities, we're often disadvantaged in a plethora of ways. And us three will speak on how we grasp those challenges and created opportunities out of them. We'll share how we've made these connections at some of the largest corporations. Among those opportunities we found, and we'll pass on to you here who are present, such as the OHSU Department of Medical Informatics and Clinical Epidemiology, which is also known as DMICE, and that's Muna's area. I can speak about OHSU's Ted R. Liley Cancer Research Internship, and Adil is going to speak about the Nike Materials and Mechanical Lab, or M&M.
I guess since I stated last, can you guys hear me? Huh? Oh, you guys can. Okay. I guess I'll give it. I'm not going to talk about the Nike Materials Mechanical Lab because I think we have enough STEM in the mix. So I think I'll talk about something a little different. So progressively, I've come to realize that the strongest version of myself is one that harnesses thoughts, beliefs, and perception to understand others without letting society's fear of difference inform my biases, to find my voice and realize that this world has enough compassion to give opportunity based on the qualifications of the candidate and not external factors that may influence a biased decision. I decided to apply to the city of Tigard to help build equity and decolonize the thought systems that plagued my city. My tenure at the Tigard Youth Council helped me find value in difference, helped amplify the value of my people, and most importantly, gave me a seat at the table to make room for those that deserve to take up space, voice their concerns, and lead with a fresh perspective. We created direct city policies to help disadvantaged youth and marginalized communities respond to the inequity of housing opportunity, the consequences of inflation, and the detrimental effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Continuing this work at the city of Tigard, we began to restructure city policies to better accommodate for the rights of migrants, refugees, and Black and Indigenous people of color. Cultivating this passion, I have developed to fight for housing and transportation equity. I work simultaneously with Unite Oregon and Momentum Alliance to build regulations, develop petitions, and organize community support to hold Tigard accountable. I began to better understand the influence of social justice organizations, and that led to my conviction for community building through the public sector, and especially through grassroots organizations that help build community for, by, and through its members. In building bridges between both, the gaps will fill and solutions will rise. Thank you.
So, for what I want to speak about, I was an intern at OHSU's cancer research internship this past year, and I'm returning again this summer because of the just how amazing of an experience it was. But it wasn't easy to get up till this point. There were a lot of challenges leading up to this, and the reason why I originally applied for this internship. So growing up, there wasn't always anyone who looked like me or resembled anything, any of my values that I could look up to, especially as an aspiring physician or a doctor or someone who wanted to go into the medical field. So it was hard to find some sort of guidance and help on what to do. And that was the reason why I had applied to OHSU, or the reason I want to be a doctor. But in addition to that, I applied to OHSU because of the lack of experience I had within a lab setting. And OHSU provided the perfect opportunity for that, gave me a hands-on experience while also catered towards marginalized communities within the Portland metro area. So my issue was that I wanted to be a doctor, but I had no experience. And there was also no one who looked like me. So when I applied to OHSU, I met some wonderful other high schoolers who were from all over Portland and were interested in the same things that I was interested in. I was the only Muslim, but I was not the only Black person on the team. So it was refreshing to kind of see another person who I could kind of relate to, and someone else who was a peer, but was also interested in something that I was interested in. and we were able to spend the whole summer working for OHSU. And so I took the opportunity that I had and I found wonderful connections. OHSU is a great place. They really focus in on diversity and they encourage so many of us to apply. If you are interested in the medical field or research or cancer, and you are 16 or almost 16, you can definitely apply next year. It's during the summer. If anyone has any questions about it, more than happy to I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I can have my email put in the chat, or if there's another way we can ask Teacher Juaria how to do that. But we really want to answer your questions and provide you guys with opportunities that you may not know you actually have. And I didn't know, if I hadn't gone to the school, I wouldn't have known about this opportunity. And it really is a really good one as someone who eventually wants to go study at OHSU.
Thank you so much, Huda, Mona, Adil, for sharing your experiences. Huda, do you have anything else to add to?
Yeah, we want to open it up to any of the youth that are listening today. If they have any questions, as seniors, we've been through it all, so we can kind of answer a few of your questions. If that's in internships, if that's on your future, we don't know everything yet, but we can help you out on the high school side at least. And if there are anything you're interested in, or if you have any questions about our internships, we'd be more than happy to give more information on that.
Mona, would you like to add anything else to this? More of your experience?
One thing I have to say is that through this experience at OHSU, I did get to meet a lot of people and I did have a lot of connections within universities now. And I feel like that was a great opportunity because now I have some people to rely on once I go into college. And I learned a lot from them, especially people that were in college, because this was an internship between high school students and college students. So I have now people to look up to, people to ask questions about, like, you know, certain majors or get to know school better. And I guess like this whole internship inspired me to, you know, be an inspiration to others, to like be there for my community so they can look up to me. Because you don't see people like us on TV or on media. So we have to be the people that make the change. We have to be the inspiration.
Thank you again, Huda, Mona, and Adil for sharing your experiences. And, you know, in this time when we are always thinking that there are no opportunities, sometimes we all are always so thinking so bleakly about the future or the present even sometimes. But then you meet Huda and Adil and Mona or Amira or Salma or Bahar, and they have done so much in their individual lives, personally, but also as students as well. And there are so many other students that that gives us hope that we as marginalized or minorities can get to where everybody else is as well. And we have the proof right here, the three and the class of 2022 with all of their achievements. They are the proof that everything is possible for you all. There are a few questions that I'm going to ask. One of the questions is, how are we actually going to put all of this into action? And well, there's another question. Inshallah, will you guys be having a webinar about women empowerment? Yes, stay tuned. That is coming. That I can answer already. And what are, for achieving growth mentally and physically, are there any tools you would recommend to our youth to use and hold on to? Like reading Quran is surely one of the tools. Anything else? And there was another question earlier that asked about what advice do the youth has for the parents to interact with their own children as well? And what advice would you as panelists give? I will open up the floor to all the panelists, and I will give about 30 to 45 seconds to each panelist to give advice to not only to the younger youth who are in the audience, but also the parents as well. We'll start off with Hoda.
Yeah, so I will say, as the oldest of 6 children who are all very different, like all my siblings and I have completely different personalities, I will say from experience that every child is different, like it's their own individual needs, and what they can and can't do. So you'd have to cater towards each child the way that they need to be catered to, which can be challenging to kind of find a way to do that and what works for you. But I think the best way for to see all of us succeed is kind of have that conversation, because once you have that conversation, it opens up a lot of honesty, and communication really helps, no matter what your relationship is. I say that with all the time, like no matter the relationship, communication is key with your parents, with your friends, with your children. And so kind of understanding that there isn't one fixed thing that we can tell you will work for all of us. It's kind of, you have to figure out what your child needs, or what they're struggling with, and how they choose to cope with it, and how you can support them. Because there isn't one fixed thing for every person or every answer. I can't give you every single thing, but what I can say is that a lot of times we show it through our actions, through how we speak to you, and how we kind of act. Is I don't know how to phrase this properly, but the way we communicate with you, or the way we act around you, is how we are expressing ourselves. And the way we express ourselves usually kind of hints at what we need, or how we want to be treated, for example. Because, for example, I'm a very introverted person. I keep most things to myself. But I know some people who will like to tell their parents every little detail, and there's differences between each person, and kind of understanding that will set, hopefully, the ground, like the foundation for a strong.
Thank you. I am actually going to ask the seniors. I wanted to make that clear. The seniors for their words of wisdom before we end. So next up, Mona.
I guess an advice that really helped me a lot, and like others, is to have a strong faith, And it doesn't mean just by like waking up and praying and reading the Quran, actually understanding what you're doing, actually understanding the meaning behind what you're doing. Like, it isn't about opening a Quran and just reading because the next day you have to go to your Quran teacher. It's more about understanding what ayahs you're reading, the meaning behind the ayahs, or how you're praying, what's behind the prayers, the stories behind them, how it became to us. And once you really understand your religion, things will open up for you. Your family will, like opportunities will show, and really your faith is a guide for us. And it's the main pillar of Islam, and there's a reason why it's that.
Personally, I think that it's important for parents to realize that there's a difference between respect and fear, and to kind of like identify which one you're operating out of. Because like as a kid, it might work. Like if you try and instill fear into your kid, it might work for some time, but eventually they're gonna grow up, and once you're grown, you're not really scared of your parents the way you would be if you were a kid. So I think that it's important, for instead of fear, for respect to sort of be the medium. And I'm not saying, let the kid run wild or whatever. Obviously, you're the parent, so there are rules and regulations that you need to establish. but just generally keeping in mind that you want to like establish from a very young age, especially that there's like a two-way communication street of respect between you and the child, and it's an understanding that they both agree. Because at the end of the day, if your own kid fears you, they're not gonna grow up, you know, they're gonna grow up and then they're gonna be like silent, give you silent treatments, kind of be distant from you, and you're gonna be wondering what happened. And the whole time you've been misreading their quote unquote respect, which was actually just them fearing you. And eventually they will grow up out of that, and then you'll kind of realize that it wasn't really like respect, it was more out of fear. So I think that's something that I would advise parents.
Can someone repeat the question just so I know what I'm answering? Real quick. Yeah.
What advice do you have for the youth and for the parents?
All right. As a child who grew up in this confusing nation with parents that had no familiarity with or understanding the American culture, I experienced the politics of four, the confusion of the Black diaspora, the basic tenets of Islam, the injustice of Somalia, and the apparent justice of America. And for these reasons, my experiences and viewpoints, my interests, they've been piqued, my philosophy's been formed, and my ambitions have been set. So everyone's different, but that worked for me.
All I have to say is that we should always try to keep learning, especially about the religion of Islam, and learn from the role models that we have in the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. No matter what stage you are in life, you can learn how to deal with people, how to live your life, and that's something important that we should always keep in mind.
I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give anyone is to have tawakkul and just trust in Allah and not worry about things that are out of our control. And that's all.
Also kind of going back to what Hada was saying about parents and the relationship with children, I think communication and sort of having time and making time for children is very important as well. A lot of parents, work a lot and they think that, providing for the children in like a materialistic manner will fulfill them. But sometimes many forget that actually spending time with them and getting to know them, it can be, something really simple, can really go a long way. So I think that's something really important to remember.
One advice I have for the parents is to just be good listeners. Even if you don't understand what the kid is saying, or if they're just rambling about something, just listen. Don't say, okay, I get it, or like just listen. As for the students, just remember that your grades don't define your value. Like if you get a bad grade, it doesn't mean that, oh, you're like a dumb person, and just always try harder, and there's always more to learning than just the grades.
Thank you, everyone. I really want to thank the 11th and 12th grade students at Oregon Islamic Academy and Amal Wajdi for setting up this great conference and inspiring the students to do so. We hope that we will have another one pretty soon, hopefully on women empowerment, or make it an annual for next year as well, so that our next year juniors and seniors will be able to participate again as well, inshallah. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate everyone's attendance and participation. Assalamu alaikum. Have a great day.
Assalamu
Assalamu alaikum.
Peace out.